Checks are still no doubt our major form of payment methods used across the world, and SAP had provided a standard solution which we can use to issue checks to the vendor payments. So in today's video, I am going to show you the configuration and the step-by-step process of how can we issue a check from SAP system for doing a vendor payment. Hey, this is Abhiram and welcome back to my channel. Before we jump into the video, do not forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it yet. And if you like this video and if you find it useful, hit the like button and share it with your friends. You can also contribute to my channel by hitting the thanks button or by joining my channel and becoming a super member and help me contribute many such wonderful videos. So let's start. Before we see the actual configuration of the check management, let us go back to the basics and understand the vendor payment cycle where we actually use different payment methods to make payment to the vendor. So the first step starts with issuing a vendor invoice. So the accounting entry at the time of vendor invoice will be expense debit to vendor account credit. Now, once the invoice is due, we need to make the payment for the invoice. The accounting entry at the time of payment looks like the vendor account gets debited and the bank account is created. So this bank account might be created in different payment methods. For you might use a bank transfer or you might use a check. And once the vendor, if at all you're issuing a check, will go to the bank and submit the check for redemption, then the bank will transfer the amount from your bank account to the vendor's account. In order for us to create the check in SAP system and print it directly, there are certain basic configurations to be in place and certain steps are required, which we are going to see in this video. The first thing that we require is the payment method with the form of check. We need to create it in FBZP transaction code. Let us go to FBZP. I am not walking you through the entire FBZP configuration, but I am going to show you only the payment method creation for our company code. In SAP, when you are defining a payment method, be it a bank transfer or be it an online transfer, be it a check, whatever different payment methods that you want to configure, you will configure the payment methods at two levels. One, it is at the country level. That means what all the eligible payment methods in that particular country. And the other one is the different payment methods used by a particular company code. So first let us define the check payment method at a country level. So our country is India. And the payment method, let me take the payment ID as X and I will define it as check payment. Here we are going to define whether it is an outgoing payment or an incoming payment. That means whether we are using this payment method to make an outgoing payment, that means to the vendors, or to receive collections from the customers, which is an incoming payment. So in this case, I want to show it for an outgoing payment. So it is an outgoing payment. And here there are different classifications of different payment methods. Depending upon this classification, we are going to define various characteristics of this payment method. So in this case, this is a check. Let us select it as check. And here we are having various options whether you want this payment method to be used to allow for the personal payments or not. So let us enable this one. Here you see there is a required master record specifications. That means in order for us to execute a payment run by using this payment method for an open item, that particular vendor master record should have certain details which are mandatory from a payment method issuance. So as this is a check payment, you need to have bank details, and the other thing is you need to have address details for that particular vendor so that you can mention it on the check payment. So let us select these two. And account number might or might not be required because you might issue it on the name of a vendor. And here we are going to define what is the document type that we are going to use for this payment method. So let us define KZ. And another important step for issuance or for printing of the check is to use the payment medium program. SAP has certain standard layouts of issuing checks or printing checks. So let us use that standard SAP program. It is RFFOUS_C. This is a standard SAP program that is used to print the check layout. If at all you need to have a custom check layout as per the business requirements, then an ABAP development is required for that form. They need to develop an SAP script in that particular layout of the check, and you need to mention that SAP script program here. And here we're having the list. Let me mention the standard details. Key in the code line is 11 and save it. Here, if you want, we can also define what all the currencies that are allowed for this payment method. If you want to issue payments only in the local currency, which in this case is INR, then you can select the currencies allowed and mention INR as the currency. In that case, it will not allow you to post or make payment for any documents which are not in INR currency by using this payment method as X. If you do not mention any currencies allowed here, then all the different currencies can be used to use or to make the payment using F110 by this payment method X. Now, if we go back, we can see the payment method that we have defined here, which is the payment method X, check payment. Now, we have defined this payment method at the country level. That means we are telling to the SAP system that this check payment method X is allowed to be used for the country India. But there are many company codes that are created within India country code. So we need to mention what all the different company codes are allowed to use this payment method X. So create a new entry. Here we're going to define what is the company code TSDL, and the payment method that we have defined at a country is X. For this individual payment method, we can define what is the minimum amount and the maximum amount of an open item that should be allowed for this payment method. And you can also mention whether the foreign country business partners can be allowed for this one or not, or whether the foreign currencies can be allowed or not. So there are various options which you can explore. And one important detail here is to enter the form data. So similarly, how we have entered the payment method form in the previous step when we are defining the payment method at the country, here we need to enter the payment form that F110 program uses to print the check layout. You can select from the existing SAP standard forms. If I go to the international, here you have payment or check with check management. So double click this one, and this is the standard script that is used. If you want to any other information that is to be printed on the check, you can also enter these details. So now save it. Now that we have defined this payment method in the company code, we also need to define this payment method in the bank determination. So for that, we need to assign this payment method to our house bank, and we need to give a priority in which the F110 program should pick up this payment method for the house bank. Going to link the different payment methods with the bank accounts, so that we are allowing which all payment methods are accepted in which particular bank account. And if you have more than one bank account or one house bank for a particular company code, then we also give the ranking order or the priority in which the system will determine which house bank and which house bank account should be picked up when a particular payment method is used in the payment run. So set the payment company code TSDL. Let us go to the ranking order. Here we are going to mention, as I said, the different bank accounts and the payment methods combination. The payment method is X and the currency is INR. Ranking order, let us give it as 1, and the house bank we have is HSBC. Now, as we are having only one house bank, this is the only one we are having. If we have different house banks, or if in the same house bank, if we are having different bank accounts, then we are going to order these bank accounts in this, and we are also going to link with the different payment methods. Let us go to the bank accounts, new entries. The house bank is HSBC. The payment method is X. The currency is INR. Account ID is H1. Here we're going to maintain the outgoing bank account. Let us select the outgoing bank account. This is the outgoing bank account that we have created it. So this account is what will be picked up when we are running F110 for this combination of payment method and the bank account. So if you are going to maintain any bank charges, then we can also use a bank charger indicator, for which we are going to mention what are the different bank charges under expenses or charges. And if you are using the business area concept, then we are going to link a business area to this bank account. Available amounts will determine what is the starting balance or what is the available balance by the time we are creating this bank account in SAP in the bank account. So the bank account, house bank is HSBC. The account ID is H1. Days, let us give it as 999, and currency is INR, and let us give some figure for the outgoing payment. So save it. Now we are done with the basic configurations for the payment method check. The main important things that we need to keep in mind if we want to use the check payment method is, first thing, assignment of the SAP scripts for the payment method, and while we are defining the payment methods at a country level and also the payment methods at the company code level. Only if we give these, then the system will be able to assign the check numbers to the outgoing payment document, and it will also be able to print out a standard SAP standard check layout. And the second thing is, we need to mention this payment method for the bank account which we are going to use, as we are seeing here in the ranking order in the bank accounts in FBZP. And now we are coming to the main part of this video, which is how to create and issue a check from SAP. So for the first step, we need to create a check lot. A check lot is nothing but it is a checkbook. The transaction code is FCHI. Here we are going to create a checkbook with how many check leaves are there. Each and every checkbook is created for a particular house bank account. So the company code is TSDL. house bank is HSBC, and the account ID is H1. So for this combination, we are going to create a check lot. So go to change. Here we are creating a check lot. So every check lot or a checkbook will have a particular number. You can give it in a sequential number as you wish. So I'm giving it as 1. And we are going to give what are all the check leave numbers that we're going to have. What all check leaves that you're going to have in the checkbook. That entire number range we are going to mention in this check lot. So I'll start this number somewhere from 1001 and I'll end it at 10099. So let us assume this checkbook is having total of, maybe I'll take it as 0, and let us take it as 100. So total there are 100 check leaves in this particular checkbook. And here we are going to mention what is the next lot number in SAP that the system should consider if the check leaves in this entire, or the entire check leaves in this check lot are over. So if you're having another check lot created, then you can do that number. You can also have what is non-sequential. That means whether the system should pick up the check number in a sequential order, or whether that is something picking up based on the next available one. It might not always be a sequential one. So the payment method list, if you want to restrict this check leaves only to any particular payment methods, then we can give that information here. So click on OK, save it. So we have created a check lot now. So now let us try to post a vendor invoice. Before we post the vendor invoice, the important step is obviously we need to enter this check payment method in the business partner master data. So let us go to the transaction BP. I've already created a business partner 801002. I'll open this one and we'll go to the company code data under this role. So under the payment transactions, we are supposed to mention the payment method that we're going to use. So I've already mentioned the payment method as X, and we have also given the house bank whatever we have created and saved it. Now let me go to FB60. Let us post a vendor invoice for this one. So here I'm going to mention the search term. So it'll automatically pick what is the vendor based on the search term. Click on search, and we got the vendor number 1000. Let us take some expense account and do the same amount. Under the payment tab, we are going to mention the house bank HSBC, and we're also giving the house bank account ID, which is H1. Here we are going to mention what is the payment method that we need to use for this invoice. So I'll give it as X, save it. So the document is now posted. Let us run the F110 payment for this particular document. Let us open F110. And identification is, let us give it as check 1. Enter the parameters. The company code is TSDL. Payment method is X. And the next payment date, let us give it as 13/11/2022. And give the supplier here. In the free selection, let us select the particular document. This is the document number. And let us select the field name as document number. I'm enabling the additional log. And the important step is the printout data and medium. If you see here we are having the program for the check one. So we need to create a variant for this one. Let me create a variant here. I'll create it as TSDL, and let us click on maintain variants. So program run date is 11/12/2022. Identification, let us give it as CHQ1. Paying company code is TSDL. Payment method is X, and house bank is HSBC, and the account ID is H1. Here we are going to mention what is the check lot number from which the check should be picked up. So I'll give it as 1, print checks, and payment method summary as ALV. Okay, let's go back and save the values. Now the values are saved. Let us give a description TSDL check, save it, go back. So we have created a variant for this SAP script so that the system will use this check lot what is mentioned in this variant to assign to the document that will be generated now. Now save the parameters, go back to the status and run the proposal. Start immediately. Just refresh it. Display the proposal. Let us see if there are any issues. There is an issue. Let us double click this one. Let us try to understand what is the issue. It says no valid payment method found. Okay, close this. Let us go to edit proposal. Double click. Here we can choose as reallocate. Let us go it as X, HSBC and H1. Click OK. Says vendor does not have suitable bank details. So this is the error because if you remember, while we were creating the check payment method, we have mentioned that there are certain details which are mandatory in the business partner for the check payment method to work. So let us go back to the business partner first. Let us open a new transaction code and let us go to the business partner transaction. And let us go to the general data. Let us maintain some basic details here. Mention the region as 19. Let us also go to the payment transactions. Here let us also mention some account. Let us mention it as INR1. Bank key, let us choose some random bank key. Give some bank account and save it. Let us now delete this proposal and rerun the proposal and see if we still face the issue. Run the proposal once again. Now the proposal is correct. So it is very much important to understand what all the basic details that are required as per the payment method configuration, and we should ensure that those details are present in the business partner before we actually make the payment. Let us make the payment. So click on payment run and start immediately. It says the payment run has been carried out successfully. Let us display the payment log first. So here we can see this document has been created 15002. Now for the check number to be assigned to this particular document which is generated, we need to click on printout and let us give some job name here. And we got the message that the job has been scheduled. You can go to SM35 and see the jobs, or directly we can go to SP01 and display the check. So this is a check that has been printed. This is the default check layout, but we can also go to the document which has been created. Let us go to the document FB03, and this is the document that got created, the payment document. And if you go to the document under environment check information, here we can see what is the check number that is assigned for this document from F110. So this is from the check lot what we have created. Now, how can we see the different statuses of checks that I have already created or have been assigned? So for that, there is something called as FCHN, which is a check register. Let's go to the transaction FCHN. Here we can search based on the company code TSDL and the house bank HSB1, sorry HSBC, and the account ID is H1. Let's execute it directly. So we have these many checks that have been already created and assigned. So the first check 101 to 2 we have been voided for testing purposes, and 1003 is what we saw has been assigned to this payment document when we had executed the print job in F110. So if you are not executing F110, that means the automatic payment program, and whereas if you want to do a manual outgoing payments, then there's a transaction called as FCH5. Let me open that. FCH5, where we can assign a check number to the document manually. Here we need to enter the payment document number, and here we can enter the check number, and if you save it, then this particular check will be assigned to this payment document. Now this check has been assigned, and if we want to void this check for some reason, for example after issuing of the check before it is being handed over to the vendor, if there has been any damage to the check, then we want to void this particular check so that it is not being used. There's a transaction called as FCH9. So FCH9 is used if you want to void an already issued check but you do not want to reverse the payment document. For example, let us give the check number here and we'll give the void reason code. Let us say probably it is ripped during printing. So save it and click on void. So the check number has been void, and if you see here it says the payment document is not reversed. That means if I go back and if I reopen this document still exists and this document has cleared the payment document also. Let me click on this one. See, it has already cleared the payment document, and if I go to the check information, It says the check has been voided. Unlike earlier where it was showing the check number, now it is also showing the void reason code because this check has been voided. Now as we have voided this check number, now we need to assign another check, but we cannot run F110 for this one because the payment document number has already been generated. Then we can go to this transaction FCH5, enter this document number, and next enter the subsequent check number and hit enter. So here we can see the payment amount what has been there automatically fetched up from this document. We have assigned this check number, and you can enter the other details also. It has automatically taken the name from the business partner. If you want, we can change this and click save. Now it says the check number has been created manually. Let us go back to the document and let us display the information once again. Let us go to environment and check information. Here we can see two different checks have been assigned to this one. And if we double click this one, we can see the first one has been voided, and we can also see the second check, which is 100005, and this has been assigned here, and there is no void information for this one. Now we have issued a lot of checks. Now we want to go back and we see the check register again, FCHN. Let us enter the house bank and the account ID and execute it. We can see the different type of checks that have been assigned. All these have been voided, and this is the final check that has been assigned to this payment document. Unlike earlier, if you want to reverse the payment document also while we are voiding a particular check, then we need to go to the transaction FCH8. This is used to reverse a check and also reverse the payment document which has been posted earlier. So this is all about the check management in SAP S4HANA. Hope you have liked this video. Do not forget to share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video, and until then, take care.